Hi everyone and welcome back to Tennis Time. So, the Australian Open 2021 has come to a conclusion. It has been a final between Novak Djokovic, world number one, former 8-time champion at the Australian Open, never lost the final here against the up-and-coming Daniil Medvedev, former US Open finalist where he lost in 2019 to Rafa Nadal. It was a highly anticipated affair. Many people thought it's going to be really close for 5 sets. That's what I expected, but that's definitely not what happened. So I'm going to look back at the final. I'm going to look back at the Australian Open overall, what has happened, how matches have unfolded, which were the best matches of the tournament. And then, just as a comparison, how this year's final fares to the last 4 years' final of Grand Slams. I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. And then I'm going to take you through the final and at the end talk about the historic significance of this victory of Novak Djokovic and why this 9th Australian Open title is so impressive. Alright, so let's get down to it. If we look back at this year's edition of the Australian Open, we know it's been a difficult tournament to stage. It has been started 3 weeks later than it normally does. Because of the pandemic situation, people had to quarantine in Australia, players arrived, some of them had to stay for 2 weeks in quarantine, did not have the chance to train, go out, play like they regularly do before a slam, so that was a blowout for them. Nonetheless, I think we had fantastic matches in each round. So I've picked the matches I thought were the most interesting. First round, Shapovalov against Sinner. That was also an anticipated first round match. It was unfortunate for both players probably because they had to meet in the first round. And the second round match between Tsitsipas and Kokkinakis, that was such a revelation. Kokkinakis coming back after so many injuries he's had. He's just 24, but looks like he's been absent forever, playing a fantastic 5-set match against Tsitsipas, but coming short in the end. The Kyrgios team match was also a fantastic one. Honorable mention, the Kyrgios Umber match from the second round as well, where Kyrgios saved match points and came back. This one against Team was definitely the highlight up until the third round, where Team has managed to come back from 2 sets to 0 down because Kyrgios is really on fire. So unpredictable, he threw everything at Team, everything he had. It's a good effort by Team to come back there. The Djokovic-Fritz match was a good one. It was from a tennis perspective, tennis-wise, a good match, especially the first 2 sets and then the 5th set. That's where Djokovic has picked up his abdominal injury. I thought in the 4th round, what match which did stand out was the one between Karatsev and Felix Auger-Aliassime, FAA beating Shapovalov in the 3rd round, having a 2 sets to 0 lead against Karatsev, but Karatsev finding his game and coming back, going through the quarters, beating Dimitrov, an injured Dimitrov nonetheless, and playing a good match against Djokovic in the semis. Probably the best match of all, maybe this even tops the Team Kyrgios match, was the Tsitsipas-Nadal quarterfinal, where Nadal did have a 2 sets to 0 lead, but has let that lead go. He had chances in the 3rd set. It went to a tiebreak. He missed a few points he normally would not miss. It was an incredible match because he had I think 27 points won on his serve in that 3rd set. He's lost just 1 single point on his service games, and that was in the last game when he won his 6th game in the 3rd set. However, he did make those mistakes in the tiebreaker, and Tsitsipas played really so well. Nadal threw everything at him, his experience, his good serve. He served really well in that 5th set, but Tsitsipas just had just a little bit more left, and I hope this win will propel Tsitsipas in the next slam, in the next tournaments he's going to play, because he's proven to everybody that he can compete with the big boys, and he can even pull off a victory against the big 3 in a Grand Slam. Alright, now approaching the final. If we look back at last 4 years Australian Open finals, with the exception of the 2019 final, all the others have went to 5 sets, and both or all three, sorry, were really fantastic matches. The Federer Nadal 5-setter, where Federer won from three games to one behind in the fifth and won it 6-3. Then his 5-setter against Cilic was also a really special one to watch. And last year's final against Djokovic and Thiem. Thiem was 2 sets to 1 up and had Djokovic on the ropes, and Djokovic pulled a Houdini there and won. So really exciting finals. At the French Open, maybe if you look at last 4 years, the 2019 final was the closest one. We see a clear dominance of Nadal. At Wimbledon, we didn't have a final in 2020 because the tournament was cancelled, but in 2019 we had a fantastic 5-setter between Djokovic and Federer. And the last 2 years, the US Open final, Nadal Medvedev and Team Zverev. Even if the Team Zverev was not that high of a quality, it was still a good final. It was a good final in the sense that it had a lot of drama and it went to 5 sets. So, given the fact how Medvedev came into this final, he hasn't spent too much time on court. He's had a 20-match winning streak. He's beaten 11 top 10 players in his last 20 matches. So he was really on a roll and he played well. He really played so well. And in his last match, when he played against Djokovic, he's won at the World Tour Finals in the round robin stage, 6-3 and 6-3. He did trouble Djokovic in the past. He had a very, very good match against him in Cincinnati in 2019. That was the time period where he's broken out, where he has managed to win his first Masters title in Cincinnati after beating Djokovic in the semis. He was 1 set down, came back in the second. In the third, he played incredibly well. He did serve second serves like they were first serves, so he risked a lot and it paid off. So he's beaten Djokovic. We knew he could do it. On the other hand, if we look at the final from Djokovic's perspective, he went through an ordeal to get to this final. We know the Fritz drama in the third round, we know the difficulties against playing a big server. Nonetheless, it was Raonic and he had a very convincing record against Raonic, so he's passed that test. In the quarters, he's passed the Zverev test. And against Karatsev, he was fully recovered already. Nonetheless, it was a tough path. He spent a lot of time on court, something like 3 hours more than Medvedev. So I really did expect a tight match, a tight final. And given the fact that Medvedev didn't have the experience of playing Nadal in that final at the 2019 Australian Open, where Nadal was 2 sets to love up, and then Djokovic Medvedev managing to come back against Nadal, making it 2 sets all, making it so tight in the fifth. I really thought this is going to be a tight match, but it was in the first set, and the first set went according to plan, at least how I saw the match unfold. What happened actually was that Djokovic came out strong. He wanted to win points quickly, win the points as short as possible, and he's done that. He won 3-love up, and then Medvedev has woken up and managed to break back, made it 3-all. So at this point I was happy in the sense that we're gonna have a good final, we're gonna have a tight final. What was strange that Medvedev did start it off serving well, but Djokovic started off even better at returning. So it was a little bit strange that Medvedev sort of had to increase the level of efficiency on his serve even more. And I was afraid he wouldn't be able to do that. But he did, and he held firm. After it was 3-all, both players were holding serve up until 6-5 for Djokovic, and then Medvedev was serving to stay in the set, and he blew that. But before that, at 4-5, Medvedev serving being done in the first set, I was so impressed by Medvedev because he had a love game. So it was a pressure situation. He was 4-5 down. He's been broken once before in that set, so he knew it could happen again. It was a tight situation and he got out of jail wonderfully. So it's not even fair to say that he got out of jail because he won that service game to love. And in a such impressive manner, I thought, okay, this is it. He's found his serve. He's serving even better than at the beginning. He has to serve like that to make the match competitive. And then at 5-6, he had to do the same thing all over again. He started with a big serve down the middle in the first game. In the first point of the game, of the 12th game in the first set. He missed his opportunities. In a sense that he missed that first serve, he lost a few points. It was love 30, then all of a sudden it was love 40, Djokovic having 3 set points. So this was a crucial moment, a crucial situation. Medvedev didn't have opportunities to win that service game or to win more points in that service game. At a love 40 situation, he managed to pull it back to 30-40, but in the end, Djokovic was just too good on the pass, and he passed Medvedev on that final shot. So that was the conclusion of the first set. And in the second set, well, for Medvedev it was really unfortunate losing that service game, and with it, since Djokovic was serving first, he lost the first set. So what does a great champion do? When they lose the first set, they fight even harder in the second. And the way the second set started, it looked like, okay, it's on. This is what we need. This is what really needs to happen. And as a consequence, what does happen? He brings Djokovic's serve. So he's 1-love up in the second set at the beginning, and he's serving for 2-love. What happens in the end? He loses the second set 6-2. So obviously something happened in that second set, and I cannot exactly pinpoint what it was. I'm not sure if Medvedev can pinpoint it, if anybody can pinpoint it, but it was definitely not something I was expecting in that match. Alright, it's absolutely correct to say that Djokovic is playing great. But Medvedev wasn't far off. I mean, he's broken back once at the beginning of the first set. He's broken at the very beginning of the second. He was in that match. And he got frustrated after Djokovic has broken straight back. And after that, he lost his serve again. And as a consequence, in that second set, he's won his serve just once. And in the third, he held just twice. And Djokovic has broken to win that third set 6-2. So if we look at it like that, after the first set, Medvedev managed to hold serve 3 more times. I mean, come on, what the hell is that? It looks like Djokovic completely took over, and Medvedev had patches where we thought, okay, this is a good point. He may do something special. He might come back. He's done it against Nadal in the US Open final. But no, I don't know. Something was completely frustrating Medvedev at the second part of this match. He was continuously chatting to his box, talking to his wife or coach. I couldn't tell, but he was complaining constantly. And we know that Medvedev was prone to behavior like that. It happened in the past before. And many times when he does something like that, he goes totally off the boil and loses to players he normally should beat. Now he's playing Djokovic, the world number 1, the absolute supreme player at the Australian Open, and he starts to chat to his box and complain about stuff. He's broken a racket as well. So this was definitely not what the doctor ordered for him to carry on and make this match competitive. So I think, first, Djokovic has played really well. He adapted his game to counter Medvedev, and he's done a brilliant job. But next to that, Medvedev definitely helped him from the beginning of the second set. He fell apart. I'm not saying he could have won the match if he wouldn't have fallen apart, because the way the whole match progressed, he felt like he's doing so many things and he can do things better than this, and he's still not winning points. He should be winning points, but he's not. And this is probably something that contributed to the fact that he sort of fell apart in that second set. And after being 2 sets to 0 down, and the way Djokovic is playing, he just couldn't make a comeback. So that's what happened basically during the entire match, actually, not just the first few sets, because after 3 sets the match was done. So if we look at the overall statistics, this was not a match where not a lot of aces were hit. So as you can see, Djokovic has only the 3, Zverev has only this, not Zverev, sorry, Medvedev has only the 6. I thought of Zverev because that was a match where both players, Zverev and Djokovic, in that quarterfinal have hit a lot of aces. The serve was still a dominant factor in this match, but they were not out-acing each other. Both are fantastic returners, especially Djokovic today was supreme. So if we look at the first serve percentage, in 67% for Djokovic, that's a good first serve percentage. It's a very, very solid one. 64% of first serves in for Medvedev. That's generally a good percentage of first serves in, but against Djokovic, the way Djokovic can return, this was definitely not enough. The first serve win ratio is 69% for Medvedev, that's relatively weak. 73% for Djokovic, that's anything above 70%, I think is very, very respectable. But what really stands out here is the 58% of second serve points won. So Djokovic has really done so well on his serve. The break points converted in the match also show this. So he had 11 break points and he's broken 7 times. That's a lot of breaks in a 3-set match. Medvedev has also broken twice, as I said at the beginning of the first set and in the very first game of the second set, but that's it. After that, he didn't really get too many chances anymore. Djokovic at the net, supreme, 18 times coming to the net. That's not an incredibly huge number, but it's still definitely higher than if we would take the 2011 Djokovic coming to the net. So 10 years ago he was not coming so often forward, and you can see the percentage, 89% of points won. So he's won 16 of 18 points coming forward. That's fantastic. This is resembling a little bit what Nadal has been doing in the last few years, in the sense that when he comes forward, he wins so many points because he's preparing the attempts to come to the net so well. And when he does, and he's at the net, it's just a formality and he's winning the majority of the points. But Djokovic today masters this brilliantly. The winner ratio, 20 for Djokovic, 24 for Medvedev. This shows that Medvedev was going generally for more, but the difference is not that high, just the 4 points. And the unforced errors, there is a considerable difference. So Djokovic is on a positive of 3 winners compared to unforced errors. So 20 winners, 17 unforced errors. Medvedev has 30, so it's -6 on the ratio comparing winners with unforced errors. So this unforced error count is high. As the winner count, the unforced error count shows as well he was going for too much too early. It just didn't work out for him. So I think these are the most relevant stats. If we go through set by set, at the beginning, Medvedev serving dominance is better. 5 aces, 74% of first serves in. Remember, the overall for the match was just 64. So here in the first set, he's done well. He's put in 74% of his first serves into play. He has won 74% of his first serves. Where he faltered was the second serve, where he's only 38%. Djokovic, on the other hand, just a 64% on the first serves put into play, but the win ratio is above 70, it's 72, and where he's spectacular here in this first set is the second serve percentage winning. So out of 10 points with his second serves, he wins 8. That's fantastic. Gets the 5 break points, gets 2 breaks, just enough to clinch that first set. Net point ratio here in this first set for Djokovic, again fantastic. He's 7 out of 7. Medvedev just venturing 3 times to the net and making the point only once. So this is definitely a testament that Medvedev has something to improve on his net game and net approaches. Winner count pretty equal here, 12 all. Unforced errors, Medvedev is 9 and Djokovic 7, so the difference is not that incredibly high. Total points won relatively close, 32 to 27 for Djokovic. So in the second set, let's see, because this is where all fell for Medvedev, where it all fell apart. So 1 ace each. Djokovic serving above 70% first serves. He wins 72% of his first serves in. The percentage on Djokovic winning his second serve drops, but he had just 7 points on his second serve, so that's not too significant. For Medvedev, on the other hand, if you remember, he had in the first set a 74% of first serves in. And now he drops to 55%, so definitely against Djokovic, who, the good returner as he is, he's killing Medvedev on his serve. So Medvedev wins just 67% of his first serves, and he's won only 2 of 10 points played on his second serve. 20%, that's horrible for him. He gets the 1 break, Medvedev, but Djokovic gets 3, so 6 games to 2, the set for Djokovic. Net points, Djokovic is again doing really well. He wins 4 out of 5, 80%. Medvedev comes just once to the net. He happens to win that point, but that doesn't really help him that much in the whole contention of the set. Winner count 5 for Medvedev, 4 for Djokovic. Unforced error account 8 for Medvedev, just the 5 for Djokovic. A slight difference here. This doesn't really tells the whole story, but what really tells the story is the serve percentage, especially the second serve percentage for Medvedev, and the low first serve percentage basically. And if we go to the final set, set 3, no more aces from either player, 2 double faults each. Djokovic is above 60% on his first serve, Medvedev is below. He wins just the 64% on his first serve put in play. He just wins 40% of second serve. Djokovic is above 70 again, winning his first serve. He's above 50, winning his second serve. Net point conversion rate, again, really good. From the 6 net approaches, he wins 5 times. Medvedev, as we can see, he tried to make some changes really. He managed to go more often forward because he felt that he had to change something, and he's ventured 9 times to the net. He won 6 points, so that 67% is not that bad, but obviously it wasn't enough for him to turn the match. Just the 4 winners for Djokovic, 7 for Medvedev, but the unforced error count here in the third set, only 5 for Djokovic, 13 for Medvedev, so that's a huge number. 13 unforced errors, that means you've given away 3 games and a point. That's not good enough against Djokovic. Yeah, so this wraps up basically from a statistics perspective, from that point of view, how the match progressed. I wanted to look at the finals of Grand Slams, what has been happening, great players when having really good streaks at slams, and take a look at what Novak has achieved today to see how really impressive that is. So if we look back at the Australian Open finals, I've started with 2004 because that's where we really saw Federer starting to dominate here. So he wins in 4, he wins in 6 and 7 and 10. So out of 6 Australian Opens, Federer wins 4. That's really impressive. And then Djokovic starts basically in 2008. He wins already his first. And then in 11, 12, and 13, he wins 3 straight Australian Open finals. So even though Federer has won 4 in 6 years, back to back, he managed to defend his title only once. So in 6 and 7, he wins in 6 and defends in 7. So Djokovic has a gap here in 2014 where he loses in the quarters to Stan Wawrinka. Stan Wawrinka wins the tournament. But in 15 and 16 he's back again and wins in 16, wins in 15, defends in 16, both times winning against Murray in the final. So again, a streak here of 2 consecutive victories. Then we have Federer miraculously coming here and winning 2 more times. So he wins in 17 and defends in 18. So that's really impressive of him to win at 35 and defend at 36. And now we have something amazing again going on because Djokovic wins 3 times again in a row. So he wins in 19, defends in 20, and defends in 21 again. Mighty impressive. If you look at the French, Rafa's record is even more impressive in the sense that he wins for the first time in 05 and defends 3 times. So that's 4 French Open titles in a row. He loses in 2009 to Söderling in the 4th round. So that's the year where Federer wins the title. But in 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14 he wins again. So that's 5 titles in a row. Then we have Stan Wawrinka winning in 15, Djokovic in 16, and then Nadal starts again in 17. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 victories again. So that's really even more impressive. But what I'm trying to show here is that Djokovic with his 9 titles and Nadal with his 13 titles at the French Open, these guys really seem to be owning these 2 majors. If we go to Wimbledon and look at Wimbledon, we have a super impressive streak from Federer. Everybody says this is his most favourite tournament, most favourite major. He's won here 8 times. So Djokovic and Federer have been equal in winning the Australian and Wimbledon respectively 8 times. Now Djokovic has pulled ahead. He has 9 Australian Open titles. From a streak perspective, so Federer has managed to win Wimbledon 5 times in a row. That's really impressive. You can think about, anybody can have a discussion about the fact whether winning 5 straight Wimbledons is even more impressive than winning 8 overall, but not having it consecutively. So defending and coming back and winning year after year and year after year. I think these 5 victories from Federer or 5 victories straight at the French Open for Nadal are impressive in their own way. So if we look here, Federer has won 5 straight, then plays 1 more final and loses that, comes back in 2009 and wins again, and after that he wins once more in 2017, so that's the 8 titles, and next to that he's played the final in 15, 14 And yeah, in 19, of course, the last time the Wimbledon final was played in 2019 against Djokovic. If we go at the US Open, we do not have somebody winning more than 5 times. So we have Federer with this fantastic streak of winning 5 times in a row, losing for the 6th time, and he's gotten straight to the final. He makes the final once more in 15, but loses to Djokovic. We have Sampras winning 5 times. We have Federer winning 5 times, although Sampras has not won these 5 consecutively, but he has collected those 5 titles over the years. So the US Open is a little bit different, or a little bit potentially even more difficult for somebody to dominate. Maybe because it's at the end of the season and players are not that focused or not that concentrated or not that fit anymore. I don't know, but the first 3 is definitely shared between the big 3. So looking ahead, what's going to happen during the year? I mean, Djokovic started last year just as impressively as he did this year. Then the pandemic has hit, and they had to stop playing. He wasn't that much more in super good shape when the pandemic. It's not correct to say the pandemic ended, but when play has returned, he's played the French Open finals since, but he has not been that impressive. So again, if he starts 2021 as impressively as he did now, he's won the Australian Open. The question is, what's going to happen next at the French Open? Nadal, that's his domain. I've learned not to bet against these guys at their favorite titles, majors, so it's potentially Nadal's to lose, Nadal's to win, however you want to put it. And if we look ahead then toward Wimbledon and the US Open, considering the form Djokovic has been in, and potentially if they continue and play on during the year relatively normally, then one could say Djokovic is definitely the favorite for Wimbledon and for the US Open this year. Nadal is the favorite for the French Open, so that potentially could mean if the new up-and-coming players like Tsitsipas, Medvedev, Zverev cannot beat the big 3 in events like that, they're still going to dominate 2021. And that would mean Djokovic could draw level with Federer, win 2 more Grand Slam titles this year. So with winning the US, winning Wimbledon, he would have 20 Grand Slams. What an incredible feat. If Nadal wins the French, then he would be temporarily the leader. If Djokovic still carries on next year and he's going to be in the form that he is in, he's going to be really very difficult to stop. We will have to see if the likes of Team Medvedev, Zverev, Tsitsipas can really rise to the occasion and not play a match like Medvedev did play today against Djokovic. Because if I look at the first set, as I said before in my analysis, he wasn't that far off. And that was just one set. So he cannot get frustrated like hell and basically hand over the match to Djokovic, because if he does that, I mean, Djokovic is going to hammer everybody, him or anybody else who does that every time. So I think from an experience perspective, this was good for Medvedev, because he realizes and he knows that he has to work even harder than that to beat Djokovic at Grand Slam. I'm definitely looking forward to the French Open. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to the 2022 Australian Open. I'm really very, very curious to see if Djokovic still can keep this up, because if he would, then he would win the Australian Open for the 10th time. He would be the second man to win a slam in double digits. That would be his 10th, and he would have won it then in 2022 for 4 straight years. So that's something even he himself hasn't done yet. Alright, that concludes today's video, today's analysis. Please, in case you have any questions, comments, put them down below. I'm really happy to read through and answer them all. Don't forget to subscribe not to miss out on any content. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.